Imagine opening your door and finding nothing, just the empty space where your package should have been. My heart sank when I saw that my latest delivery, a pair of wireless earbuds I'd spent weeks saving up for, was gone. It wasn't the first time. In 1 month, 3 packages had vanished from my porch at Willow Creek Condos. I knew who the culprit was. Diane, the neighbor who seemed to have a radar for other people's deliveries. There she was, across the street, pretending to tend to her pristine lawn, but her eyes darted toward me with a smirk that screamed guilty. My blood boiled. No more playing nice. I needed a plan, something brilliant, epic, that would make Diane regret every box she ever took. Diane wasn't just a package thief. She was the self-proclaimed queen of Willow Creek Condos, a figure straight out of a reality show about insufferable neighbors. Always watching, she patrolled the streets with a mental notebook, jotting down every minor infraction. A bike leaning against the wrong gate, a Christmas wreath daring to shine past New Year's, even laughter too loud at a backyard party. Diane had an almost supernatural knack for turning tiny flaws into personal crusades, firing off scathing emails to the condo board with subject lines in all caps, unacceptable violation. But stealing, that was new territory, a step I never imagined she'd take. 3 of my packages had disappeared from my porch in less than a month, first a portable charger, then a pair of sneakers, and now my wireless earbuds, which I'd worked overtime to afford. Each time I'd see her lurking with that knowing look and a crooked smirk that seemed to shout, "I'm untouchable." My blood boiled just thinking of her opening my boxes, as if they were gifts she deserved. I needed to prove it was her, not just for me, but for the entire condo community, living under her reign of terror. As I peered out my living room window, I saw Diane polishing her mailbox with a cloth as if she were buffing an Olympic medal. It was ridiculous, almost theatrical, the kind of thing you think only happens in over-the-top comedies. But there she was, scrubbing the metal until it gleamed, probably so everyone would notice her perfection. I grabbed my phone and called. Tyler, my best friend since college, who always had a laugh ready for any drama. "Seriously, man, Miss Perfect is stealing your stuff?" he said, his voice already shaking with laughter. "It's her, Tyler, I'm sure of it," I replied, keeping my eyes locked on Diane, who was now adjusting a flower pot with surgical precision. "Yesterday, I saw her pass by my porch minutes before my package vanished, and that smirk, she knows I know." Tyler let out a laugh so loud he nearly knocked something over on his end. "Man, this is soap opera level. What are you going to do, put up a thief sign on her door?" he suggested, confronting her directly, as if Diane was the type to admit fault. "No, Ty," I said, feeling an idea spark inside me, something bigger, brighter. "Confronting's not enough. I want her exposed, humiliated, the whole package, and filmed in 4K for the world to see." Tyler went quiet for a second, then let out an impressed, "Whoa, you're talking epic revenge, huh? I'm in. What's the plan?" That night, while Diane was probably drafting another anonymous complaint about someone's crookedly parked car, I started plotting my strategy. It wouldn't just be about catching her in the act. It would be a trap no one, not even she, could ignore. I pictured the scene. Diane, the untouchable queen, covered in some ridiculous substance, screaming while the condo watched, her masks of perfection crumbling to pieces. Tyler, still on the phone, threw out ideas. "What if you put an alarm in the box or something that flashes lights like a rave?" I laughed, but my mind was already racing ahead. I wanted something visual, memorable, something that would stick in the minds of anyone who saw it, and more importantly, something that would stick online. "We're going to make her a meme, Ty," I said, jotting down ideas in a notebook. "I'm building a trap that not only proves she's the thief, but makes her wish she'd never looked at my porch." On the other end, Tyler whistled. "Man, you're dangerous. This is going to be legendary." After hanging up with Tyler, I stayed up all night, my mind spinning like an engine on overdrive, planning every detail of what would be far more than a simple prank. It would be a masterpiece of justice, a spectacle that would make Diane, the untouchable queen of Willow Creek Condos, wish she'd never set eyes on my porch. Sitting at the kitchen table with a cold mug of coffee and papers scattered around, I began sketching the idea. Catching her red-handed wasn't enough. I needed something visually striking, impossible to ignore, and etched in the memory of anyone who saw it, especially online where humiliation lives forever. First, I ordered a fake box online, one that screamed expensive at first glance. Glossy black with metallic edges, the kind that makes anyone imagine a cutting-edge gadget. Inside, it arrived in 2 days, and when I opened it, I grinned. It was perfect, as if designed to lure Diane's greed. But the real genius was what went inside, and for that I called Tyler, who showed up at my garage the next night with a toolbox and a glint in his eyes that said, "Let's make some chaos." Together, we turned the box into a device worthy of a spy movie. First, we installed a hidden camera, small enough to go unnoticed but with 4K resolution, to capture every micro-expression of shock on Diane's face. Next came the sound device, a siren Tyler rigged to unleash a deafening wail, like an ambulance siren mixed with a heavy metal solo. "This'll make her jump to the ceiling," he said, laughing as he soldered the wires. The final touch was the colored foam spray, a special mix we found on a party supply website. Harmless to skin but sticky enough to cling to clothes for days, dyeing them in vibrant shades of neon green and electric purple. We tested the prototype in my backyard at dusk, and when the box went off, the foam erupted in a cloud so vivid it looked like a rainbow having a tantrum. I fell to my knees, laughing so hard I could barely breathe, while Tyler recorded it on his phone, already picturing the viral video. "Man, her face when this goes off. I'm going to want a poster of that," he said, shaking his head. "This isn't just a trap, it's art." But it wasn't just about laughs. Every detail had a purpose. The camera would ensure undeniable proof. The siren would disorient her, and the foam would be the cherry on top, marking Diane as guilty for anyone who saw her. I spent hours fine-tuning the mechanism, making sure everything would trigger the moment she lifted the lid. Tyler suggested adding a fake note inside, something like, "Congratulations on your $2,000 purchase," to pique her curiosity, but I decided to keep it simple. The box itself was irresistible enough. Before bed, I handwritten a fake label. "Premium sound system, limited edition." It was the kind of thing Diane, with her obsession for status, couldn't resist. At dawn, I placed the box on my porch carefully, positioning it exactly where my other packages had vanished. I looked out at the empty street, the sun just rising, and felt a chill in my gut. Not fear, but anticipation. "Your move, Diane," I muttered, heading back inside. I sat on the couch with my laptop, the camera's live feed already open, and waited, knowing the show was about to start. The clock had barely struck 11 in the morning when I noticed movement through the living room window. There was Diane crossing the street with that calculated, overly casual stride, as if she were just admiring the condo's flowers. But I knew her well enough to spot the glint in her eyes, the same one that appeared every time a new package landed on my porch. My heart raced, pounding so hard it felt like it might leap out of my chest. This was it. The trap Tyler and I had so carefully planned was about to spring. Diane paused near my porch, pretending to adjust the patterned scarf she wore, but her eyes scanned the street like a hawk. She gave one last glance around. No one in sight except me, hidden behind the half-open curtain. And then, with the speed of someone who'd done this before, she snatched the glossy black box with the fake premium sound system label. Bingo! She clutched it to her chest like a kid running off with stolen candy, and bolted to her house, the low heels of her shoes clacking on the sidewalk. "Got you," I whispered, rushing to my laptop with a grin that wouldn't fit on my face. The hidden camera inside the box was already streaming live, and I wasn't going to miss a second of this. I sat on the couch, my laptop balanced on my knees, and the screen came alive with the image of Diane in her impeccable living room, decorated like a magazine showroom. She placed the box on the coffee table with an almost reverent care, as if unwrapping a relic. Her fingers, with nails painted a screaming red, tore through the tape with a confidence bordering on arrogance. "Go, Diane," I whispered, gripping the phone where Tyler was on the line, already laughing before the show. I even started, then chaos erupted. The second she lifted the lid, the alarm went off, a piercing wail as if an alien spaceship had decided to land in her living room. Her two poodles, until then napping in a corner, began barking frantically, jumping as if the world was ending. Before Diane could process the sound, the colored foam exploded in a wild cloud of neon green and electric purple, covering her from head to toe. She screamed, a sound so primal it almost drowned out the alarm, and stumbled over her expensive rug, falling to her knees as the foam clung to her hair, clothes, and even her pristine white curtains. "Man, this is better than a movie," Tyler shouted over the phone, his voice breaking with laughter. "Look at her face. She looks like a melted popsicle." The camera captured everything in glorious detail. Diane's face, once so composed, now a mask of shock and fury, with strands of hair plastered to her forehead by a sticky layer of green. Still screaming, Diane staggered to the back door and burst into the backyard, flailing her arms as if she could swat the foam away like flies. It was the perfect mistake. The condo, which until then seemed deserted, sprang to life. A couple driving by slammed on the brakes, the husband pointing while the wife pulled out her phone to record. A neighbor, Mrs. Larson, opened her second-floor window and let out a laugh so loud it echoed down the street. Even the teenager from the house next door, always glued to his earbuds, stopped his bike and stood slack-jawed, filming with his phone. Diane, covered in foam dripping like melted ice cream on a hot day, noticed the stares and froze. Then her eyes met mine. I was on the porch, arms crossed, unable to hide my grin. "You!" she shouted, pointing a trembling finger, the foam sliding down her arm and pooling purple on the ground. "This is your doing, you delinquent." I raised my hands, all innocence. "Me, I'm just protecting what's mine, Diane. Maybe you should stop taking what doesn't belong to you." The crowd grew. More neighbors stepped out of their homes, drawn by the commotion, some laughing openly, others whispering with disapproving glances at her. Diane's expression was pure gold, half incandescent rage, half raw panic, as if she knew this moment would haunt her forever. As she tried unsuccessfully to scrub the foam from the sleeves of her pricey cardigan, I ran inside and checked the recording on the laptop. Every frame was perfect, from the moment she stole the box to the hysterical meltdown in the backyard. Tyler, still on the phone, could barely speak through his laughter. "Man, this is gonna blow up online. You gotta post it now." I hesitated for a second, knowing that once the video went up, there'd be no turning back. That night, with adrenaline still coursing through my veins, I sat on the couch with the laptop on my lap, the screen glowing with the final edit of the video capturing Diane's epic downfall. Every frame was a masterpiece. The moment she stole the box with a smug grin, the deafening alarm exploding, the green and purple foam turning her into a living statue from a color festival. I added a subtle soundtrack with rising beats that made the chaos even more dramatic, and finished with a quick cut of her poodle jumping in panic, as if even it knew its owner had gone too far. I chose the title carefully. Package Thief Caught in Epic Trap. It was direct, attention-grabbing, perfect for drawing eyes. When I clicked upload on YouTube, I felt a mix of satisfaction and nerves. I knew I was dropping a bomb on Diane's reign over Willow Creek Condos. Within 2 hours, the video had thousands of views, the number climbing so fast I could barely keep up. Comments started flooding in. "This woman looks like she fought a unicorn and lost," one user wrote, with a barrage of laughing emojis. Another said, "Neighbor of the Year award goes to no one. What a mess." I laughed out loud, scrolling through as strangers worldwide dissected Diane's collapse. Someone even posted, "I've seen movie villains less brazen than this lady." Tyler, following it all over the phone, texted nonstop, "Man, you created a monster. This is blowing up." For a moment I felt justice was served. Diane, the untouchable, was now the target of thousands of laughs. But the calm didn't last long. The next morning my phone buzzed with an email that made my stomach churn. It was from the Sunset Pines condo board, signed by Greg, the president, a chill guy who usually only showed up at meetings to talk about tree trimming. The subject line said it all. Formal complaint, immediate action required. I opened the message with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Diane, of course, hadn't stayed quiet. In a text dripping with indignant jargon, she accused me of deliberate harassment, invasion of privacy, and my favorite part, use of dangerous traps that threatened her physical and emotional safety. I laughed out loud, nearly spilling my coffee. Picturing Diane writing that email with her hair still tinged purple, pounding the keyboard as if she could crush me with words. But behind the laughter, I felt a warning. Diane was playing dirty, trying to flip the script and paint herself as the victim. It was classic her. The woman who pointed fingers at every minor infraction now wanted to pose as innocent, as if she hadn't spent months looting the neighborhood's porches. The sunset. Pine's condo board meeting was set for a Tuesday night, in a community room that smelled of stale coffee and disinfectant. I walked in with my laptop under my arm, the weight of the footage giving me sharp confidence but also a twinge of nerves. Diane was slippery, and I knew she'd try to turn the tables. When I entered, the atmosphere already felt heavy. Greg, the president, a middle-aged man with thick-framed glasses and the expression of someone who'd rather be home watching TV, sat at the head of the table, flipping through papers. Other board members, Helen, a woman who always brought homemade cookies, and Martin, a guy who seemed to sleep with his eyes open, took their seats. And there was Diane, sitting ramrod straight like a statue, her hair still faintly purple despite the frantic washes she must have tried over the past few days. Her eyes pierced me the moment I walked in, a mix of anger and defiance but also something new, a spark of desperation. She wore an immaculate navy blazer, as if she could reclaim her authority with a well-chosen outfit, but the glow of the foam seemed to haunt her still, like a shadow no shampoo could erase. Before Greg could even open the meeting, Diane seized the floor, standing with the energy of someone who'd rehearsed her speech in front of a mirror for hours. "This man," she pointed at me, her voice trembling with practiced outrage, "attacked me deliberately. He set a cruel trap on his porch, designed to publicly humiliate me. This isn't just harassment, it's a danger to the entire community." She paused dramatically, expecting nods of agreement, but the room stayed quiet except for the sound of Martin fiddling with his phone. Greg raised a hand, calling for silence with a tired sigh, and turned to me. "Let's hear your side," he said, adjusting his glasses. I opened my laptop, feeling every eye in the room, and connected it to the projector the condo used for budget presentations. "I won't say much," I began, keeping my voice steady. "The footage speaks for itself." I clicked play, and the screen lit up with the truth in high definition. Diane crossing the street with that furtive step, grabbing the glossy black box with the fake premium sound system label, and then, in her living room, opening it with a greedy smile. The alarm exploded, the green and purple foam sprayed, and her scream echoed so loudly that Helen let out a muffled "oh my." I showed it all, every frame of the theft, the chaotic eruption up to the moment in the backyard where she, covered in foam, shouted to the neighbors, "I was just checking it." The room fell into absolute silence, as if the air had been sucked out. The video ended with a frozen image of Diane, arms outstretched, foam dripping, looking like a defeated comedy villain. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw Diane, speechless. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, searching for an excuse that wouldn't come. Greg cleared his throat, the sound cutting through the tension. "Diane," he said, leaning forward, "stealing packages is a crime. You know that, right? And this footage, well, it doesn't leave much room for doubt." Diane stammered, her face red, her hands gripping the edge of the table as if it were her last line of defense. I wasn't stealing. I thought it was something suspicious. I wanted to protect the neighborhood." The lie was so flimsy that Martin, until then distracted, raised an eyebrow. Helen shook her head, muttering something about shame. "Protect the neighborhood," I shot back, keeping my tone firm but calm. "Then why did you run into your house with the box? Why did you open it like it was yours?" Diane looked around, searching for support, but the other board members averted their gazes, clearly embarrassed for her. The Sunset Pines condo board acted with a speed I hadn't expected, as if they wanted to extinguish the fire Diane had started before it consumed the entire neighborhood. That same night at the meeting, Greg brought down the hammer. Diane was suspended from any position or committee in Willow Creek Condos, a blow that stripped her of the last shred of power she still wielded as the self-proclaimed queen. She also received an official written warning with harsh words about unacceptable behavior and violation of community trust. When Greg read the decision, the room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Diane, who moments earlier had been trying to defend herself with disjointed arguments, went rigid, her lips pressed into a thin line, her face red as if she were about to explode. As she left, she passed by me at the door, huffing like a bull, ready to charge, and shot me a look that could melt steel, pure venom, a silent promise that this wasn't over. I closed my laptop with a restrained smile, but inside I knew the war was far from finished. Diane wasn't the type to swallow a humiliation like that and move on. As I walked home under the streetlights, I felt a mix of victory and caution, like a general who'd won a battle, but was bracing for a counterattack. In the days that followed, the video I posted titled "Package Thief Caught in Epic Trap" spiraled out of control like a runaway train picking up speed. What started with thousands of views on the first night turned into millions in less than a week. The number climbing so fast I had to refresh the page hourly to believe it. The internet embraced the story with ferocious enthusiasm, turning Diane into an almost mythical figure, but not in the way she'd want. Memes started popping up across platforms. One edit showed her covered in green and purple foam on a fake movie poster, captioned, "The Colorful Thief, Package's Revenge." Another had her mid-scream face next to a clown emoji saying, "When you think you're clever but become the punchline." On Twitter, someone created the hashtag #YarkFoamDiane, and soon there were entire threads dissecting every second of the video, with gifs of her tripping over the rug and comments like, "Oscar for best meltdown goes to this lady," Tyler called me on the third day, his voice hoarse from laughing. "Man, she's a legend now, but the wrong kind, like the villain nobody asked for." He sent me a link to a TikTok remix where Diane's scream was turned into an electronic beat with the foam exploding in slow motion. "Oh, you broke the internet, my friend," he said, and I could hear the pride in his voice. I sat on the porch with my phone, scrolling through comments. This woman needs a reality show. The foam is the real star. And for a moment I felt justice had been served in glorious fashion. But even with the world laughing at her, I couldn't relax. Diane wasn't just anyone. People like her, who build empires of control with judgmental glares and biting emails, don't accept defeat so easily. 7 days after the board meeting, Willow Creek Condos seemed strangely calm, like the quiet before a storm. The foam trap video still dominated the internet with millions of views and a legion of fans creating increasingly absurd edits, but Diane had vanished from sight. Her house across the street stayed with curtains drawn, her car parked in the garage, and no sign of her patrolling the neighborhood as she used to. I could almost believe she'd given up. Almost. Then, on a Saturday morning while grabbing the newspaper, I saw something that tied my stomach in a knot. A plain brown box on my porch, about the size of a book, with no sender, no address, nothing but poorly applied tape. My instincts screamed Diane so loudly I nearly dropped my coffee. I grabbed my phone and called Tyler, who answered on the second ring, his voice still groggy from sleep. "Man, there's a box here." "No." "Label?" "I'm thinking it's her," I said, keeping my eyes locked on the object as if it might explode at any moment. Tyler snapped awake. "Don't open it, man. It's a trap. Seriously, it could be anything. Glitter, paint, heck, a live frog." I laughed, but the tension in my voice betrayed my nerves. "Relax, I'm not that dumb," I replied, already grabbing a pair of gardening gloves and a long stick I used for the grill. That box wasn't going to catch me off guard. I took the box to the backyard, far from the house where the empty lawn seemed like a safe stage for any surprise. I set it down carefully, as if it were a bomb, and stepped back. Tyler still on. The phone narrated like a sports commentator. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, our hero faces the mysterious artifact of revenge. Will it be the end?" "Shut up, Ty," I muttered, chuckling despite the knot in my stomach. With the stick, I prodded the tape until the lid gave way. Nothing exploded, no sound, no foam, no frog leaping out. Just a folded piece of yellowed paper, like something torn from an old notebook. I picked it up with the tip of the stick, unfolded it carefully, and read aloud to Tyler. "You think you won? This is far from over." The words, handwritten, in sharp, furious script, seemed to pulse with Diane's rage. I let out a short, nervous laugh, but a chill crept up my spine, as if someone were watching me. "Man, she's on some B-movie villain level," Tyler said, half laughing, half concerned. "What is this, a comic book threat?" I shook my head, scanning the empty backyard. "It's Diane being Diane," I replied. "She's playing, trying to scare me." But inside I knew it was more than that. That box was a warning, a reminder that she wasn't going to let this die easily. A few days after the mysterious box appeared on my porch, the neighborhood seemed locked in an uneasy truce, as if all of Willow Creek Condos were holding its breath. The foam trap video was flirting with 10 million views, and the Yasky Foam Diane hashtag was a phenomenon online, with strangers from all corners turning Diane's meltdown into jokes, edits, and even hilarious fan art. But I knew she wouldn't stay silent for long. People like Diane, who build their lives on a facade of superiority, always find a way to strike back, even when cornered. And she didn't disappoint. On Thursday night, my phone buzzed with a notification from the Condos Facebook group, a place usually filled with discussions about trash pickup times or complaints about barking dogs. There was Diane's post, a long and fiery screed, with capital letters screaming indignation. "Attention, residents," it began. "I have been the victim of a cruel attack by a public menace living among us. The prank trap he used is illegal, dangerous, and a threat to everyone's safety." She named me directly, painting me as a villain who terrorized the neighborhood, and ended by demanding the board take immediate action. I read the post with a mix of disbelief and amusement, picturing Diane typing furiously, still with traces of purple in her hair, trying to reclaim control of the narrative. But the internet, as always, had other plans. The reaction was instant and brutal. Within minutes, the post was swarmed by users, not just neighbors, but strangers who had seen the viral video. Comments flooded in. "Stealing's illegal, isn't it, Diane?" Someone wrote, attaching a screenshot of the exact moment she grabbed the box from my porch. Another posted a gif of her covered in foam, captioned, "When you try to play the victim," but the whole world saw the truth. Even accounts from outside the neighborhood joined the fray, sharing clips of the video with lines like, "This lady is the definition of playing the victim." A more creative user edited a photo of her screaming in the backyard with the text, "Defense attempt level 0." I was biting my nails from laughing so hard, refreshing the page as the comment section turned into a digital battlefield. Diane tried to respond with short bursts like, "You don't know the full story," and "This is defamation." But each reply only threw more fuel on the fire. Less than 3 hours later, the post vanished, and soon after, her entire Facebook account disappeared. Tyler called me right away, dying of laughter. "She thought she'd come out the hero and got a technical knockout. The internet doesn't forgive, man." I laughed, but behind the amusement, a warning light was flashing. Diane wasn't one to give up so easily, and deleting her account felt more like a strategic retreat than a surrender. The foam trap video hit a surreal milestone of 10 million views at a speed that left me dizzy, as if Willow Creek Condos had been catapulted to the center of the digital universe. What started as a personal vendetta became a global phenomenon, with the hashtag FoamDiane popping up everywhere, from snarky tweets to Instagram reels. YouTube reaction channels began dissecting every second of the footage, with creators howling with laughter as they paused on the exact moment Diane tripped over the rug, the green and purple foam erupting like a rainbow volcano. "This woman is chaos in neighbor form," exclaimed a YouTuber with 500,000 subscribers, while another edited her scream with dramatic echo effects, as if it were the soundtrack to a movie trailer. Even a local comedian, known for skits at the town bar, got in on it. He took the stage with a poorly dyed purple wig, sprayed himself with shaving cream, and mimicked Diane yelling, "I was just checking it," to an audience that laughed until they choked. Tyler sent me links to all of it, with messages like, "Man, you created a new religion." I laughed, but with every notification I felt a mix of pride and unease. Diane had been silent for days, and her absence felt louder than the internet's applause. Then, on a rainy afternoon, I got a call that changed everything. It was Paul, a quiet neighbor who lived 2 houses down, a middle-aged guy who always seemed to avoid trouble. His voice trembled on the phone. "Look, I saw the video, and, well, Diane stole a package from me too, a few months back. It was a gift for my daughter, nothing expensive, but I never had the guts to confront her. I stood frozen, phone glued to my ear, processing. You weren't the only one, were you?" I asked, already sensing the answer. Paul sighed. "No. I talked to Mrs. Larson and Mike from number 12, and they said the same thing. Packages went missing and everyone thought it was her, but no one wanted to mess with the neighborhood queen." That confession lit something in me. It wasn't just about my packages. It never was. Diane had turned the condo into a minefield, using her power to intimidate and steal while posing as a model citizen. I hung up with Paul, promising I'd do something, and spent the night texting other neighbors. One by one they shared stories. A delivery of medication that never arrived, a pair of gardening gloves that mysteriously vanished, even a dog toy Diane probably took by mistake. Each account was a piece of a puzzle revealing who she really was. I decided it was time for one final move, something to seal Diane's fate once and for all. I took the original footage, along with screenshots from my security cameras showing her lurking around my porch weeks earlier, and compiled a digital dossier. Then I sent it all to a local news blog called Pine Valley Post, known for covering suburban dramas with a touch of sarcasm. I wrote a straightforward email explaining the context, the thefts, the trap, the neighbor's confessions, and attached the video with a note. The story of a thief who thought she was untouchable. Less than 24 hours later, the blog published the story with a headline that made me laugh out loud. "Condo package thief goes viral after genius trap." The article was relentless, detailing how Diane, the self-proclaimed guardian of Willow Creek, was unmasked by a fake box and now faced the wrath of both neighbors and the internet. Weeks after the Pine Valley Post article turned Diane into the most talked-about villain in town, Willow Creek Condos began to breathe a different air, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from the neighborhood's shoulders. The rumor hit. On a Sunday afternoon, while I was having coffee on the porch, Diane was moving out. A neighbor, Mrs. Larson, passed by with her little dog and let slip, almost whispering, that she'd seen a moving van parked in front of Diane's house. "She didn't look anyone in the eye," she said, with a barely concealed smile. Later, I learned through the condo group chat that the board, pressured by a wave of complaints from residents, sparked by the confessions the video triggered, opened a formal investigation into Diane's other infractions. It wasn't just about stolen packages. There were reports of unfair fines she imposed as the unofficial enforcer, subtle intimidation of new residents, even accusations that she siphoned small amounts from the maintenance fund for personal projects. Greg, the board president, confirmed at a meeting that Diane was given an ultimatum: move out quietly or face more serious consequences, including potential legal action. Tyler, when he heard, couldn't contain his glee. "You didn't just win, man, you drove the villain out. This is superhero-level stuff now." He laughed, mimicking a flowing cape, but I just shrugged, unable to shake the feeling that Diane wouldn't vanish so easily. Every morning I still checked my porch with a wary eye, half expecting another unmarked brown box, one last jab from an enemy who didn't know how to lose. Meanwhile, the foam trap video kept living on the internet, like a monster that refused to die. With over 12 million views, it was spawning new digital offspring every day. Remixes with electronic beats turning Diane's scream into a dance track, edits placing her in absurd scenarios, from a zombie apocalypse to a chaotic fashion show, and even a full musical parody posted by a comedy channel titled Ode to Foam Diane. The lyrics, which included lines like, "Grabbed your box, thought I was queen, now I'm a meme covered in foam on a screen," went viral on TikTok, with teens choreographing routines that mimicked her trip on the doormat. The internet, with its ruthless memory, had officially dubbed her Foam Diane, a nickname that stuck like the foam that brought her down. I smiled every time I saw a new meme, knowing that wherever Diane went, That name would follow her like a digital shadow. My porch was safe. Packages arrived without disappearing. And for the first time in years, the building felt at peace. Board meetings were now about gardening instead of drama, and neighbors greeted each other without glancing over their shoulders, in fear of her surveillance. But even in victory, I kept the cameras rolling, the security app always one tap away. Peace was nice, but with Diane, you could never let your guard down. Months later, as summer's heat gave way to the first breezes of fall, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a short video, under 30 seconds, with a note. Looks like she didn't learn. I opened the file with a mix of curiosity and dread, and there she was, unmistakable, even in a different city, now with a fake brunette shade that didn't hide her purple past. She was arguing with a mailman on the sidewalk of some random neighborhood, pointing at a package and shouting something about wrong delivery and lack of professionalism. The mailman, visibly irritated, shook his head while she gestured, as if the world owed her answers. I laughed out loud, almost dropping my phone, and showed the video to Tyler, who was on my couch eating pizza. "Some people never change," he said between bites, then mimicked Diane's exaggerated finger-pointing. "Seriously, dude, she's destined to fight mailmen forever." I replied to the sender with a simple, "Thanks for the update," and saved the video in a folder titled Diane Files, alongside the original footage and meme screenshots. As I stared at the screen, I wondered what might come next. Maybe Diane would resurface one day, with a new plan, a new look, but the same arrogance. Or maybe she'd remain an urban legend haunting other people's porches. But one thing was certain: if she tried anything, I'd be ready, with cameras rolling, alerts on, and an even smarter trap up my sleeve. The world already knew Foam Diane. I made sure no one would ever forget. And every share, every laugh, was a reminder that justice, when well recorded, lasts forever.